Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to State of Wake featuring Dimitri and Paul. State of Wake is licensed by BIPCOT, no gov. That's right. We are covered by a BIPCOT no gov license. You can find out more about it at bipcot.org. And there you will learn what it means to have a BIPCOT no gov license. What it means is if you're listening to this show and you want to use this show any way you want, that's cool. Go ahead. Unless you're with the government, in which case I will socially shame you into the Stone Ages. I don't know if you could socially shame someone into the Stone Ages, but I'm going to give it a try. Tonight, I have really, really bad news for everyone. First of all, Dimitri, he's not here, because if he was here, you would have heard him say, I am Dimitri Busy-Kiss at this point, but he didn't do that, or the count would have come on. I don't know how many of you listen regularly, but Dimitri has a character called the Count. It's based on a Sesame Street character called the Count, but it's all purely coincidental, though. No relation. Well, there is a relation, but there isn't a relation. We pretend Sesame Street has a BIPCOT no-gov license, because everyone should have a BIPCOT no-gov license, but unfortunately Sesame Street doesn't, because it's just a slave master to the Rothschilds teaching our Okay, hold on. Dude, usually Dimitri would be here to check me before I kind of lost it. So I may lose it a few times tonight because I don't have Dimitri checking the crazy. Usually he checks the crazy. But there ain't nobody here checking the crazy. So I am all alone. And you folks who are listening, well, good luck. You know, may God be with you and all that stuff. So before we get into the show, we are going to prepare you. We are going to warm up your brain and prepare it for the awakening. So here we go. Let's do our intro.
State of Wake with Dimitri and Paul.
You're either with us or you're with the enemy. That's clear. I will continue to make that clear.
What difference at this point does it make?
Basically taking over and the government running all of your companies.
We are 5 days away from fundamentally transforming the United States of America.
Wake up! Wake up!
We're scared. We're scared of an Obama presidency.
I have to tell you, he is a decent person and a person that you do not have to be scared as President of the United States.
I have 2 words for you. Predator drones. You will never see it coming.
But we have to pass the bill so that you can find out what is in it.
Either you're with us, either you love freedom and with nations which embrace freedom, or you're with the enemy.
Wake up! Wake up!
We also ask the school board to make a part of every day some kind of anti-violence, anti-gun message. Every day, every school, at every level. And we need to do this every day of the week and just brainwash people into thinking about guns in a vastly different way.
And when they say, I want my lawyer, you tell them, shut up.
Your time
Don't
is
get a
expired.
lawyer. You're an enemy combatant.
Wake up!
We haven't had a very collective notion of these are our children. So part of it is we have to break through our kind of private idea that kids belong to their parents or kids belong to their families and recognize that kids belong to whole communities.
State of Wake with Dimitri and Paul. What's your state of wake?
Yeah, take that. I tried to come in a little bit earlier, but I hit your wrong buttons. I was trying to hit the button to unmute my line, but I hit the button to mute my line even harder. When you're trying to unmute your button, don't pick the harder mute button, because then nobody can hear you. And I'm just wondering, as I sit here and I think about buttons, why it is, because I looked at my guns the other day, because I got really excited because I heard that. I mean, this is old news. This is just me rambling, so you're just going to have to deal with it. When I ramble, I pick up old news like that maybe we should have covered, like when it was new news. But, you know, when I heard them, some, who was it, some Fox News or some other network news person thingy was talking about these bullet buttons. I looked everywhere for my freaking bullet buttons. I could not find the freaking bullet button. So listen, if any of you know where the bullet button is, what I want you to do, I want you to email me at paul@stateofwake.com with some graphics to show me where I may find a bullet button. I'm really anxious to find the bullet button, because apparently there's a button somewhere on your gun that if you press it, suddenly it turns it into an automatic. Not that I want an automatic weapon, because I'm decent. But I just want to know. I just want to know. I want to see it for myself. But I'm not trying to have an automatic weapon. You guys all have to know out there that I believe wholeheartedly in following the law, no matter how stupid it is. Because law is law. It's a rule of law. Even if it's stupid, it's a law. So, you know, I totally feel like following law. I'm totally down with that. So this is the part of the show where Dimitri and I, what we would be doing is we would be conversing about our week. And Dimitri would probably tell me some long-winded, illuminated tale about, you know, how he discovered how to cry again as a man. But he's not here to give me one of those, I didn't think that I could cry as a man. And then one day, I was pouring myself a bowl of Rice Krispies. And, you know, I remember those commercials, the Snap, Crackle, Pop commercials, and I always thought they were ridiculous. But there it was, early in the morning. I poured that bowl of Rice Krispies, and then I poured the milk into the Rice Krispies, and after I did, all of a sudden, I could hear the sweet, dulcet tones of Snap, Crackle, and Pop, just like they said it was. And it was a beautiful thing. See, that's what he would do, but he's not here. Now, I think that I have depicted him rather accurately, and I know wherever he's at, I'm sure that he's listening to this show, and I'm sure that he appreciates the dead-on impersonation that I'm delivering. Last reports, by the way, and we do get conflicting reports, and you'll see in the show notes that it is reported. It's not really confirmed, but it's reported that Dimitri was abducted by a van, or people in a van. He was abducted and dragged into a van, and the van said, "Free stuff, feel the Bern," B-E-R-N. Which, by the way, is fitting because Bernie Sanders is, he's going to come up in this show. I'm just saying, be prepared. Trigger warning for all of you folks that don't like democratic socialism and you find it offensive. Just let that trigger warning go. So the theory is that Bernie Sanders people got him. But really, the only confirmed report we have is that he was walking towards the van and he was carrying a bag of sausages. I didn't add that to the show notes because I didn't want to humiliate him. So I don't know what the bag of sausages was for, and I don't know if he sells sausages or if he just really likes sausages or if he was carrying sausages for someone. It's a sausage mystery. None of us really knows. So he approached the van and then, well, he disappeared. He didn't show up. He contacted me, but he didn't tell me where he was. All he said was, "Man, I can't make it. I can't make it." And then the line went dead. And that was that. So, you know, free will. So, you know, I just let it go. Some people say, "Well, why don't you call the cops and see where he is?" But, you know, that's not how I roll. I don't call the cops. I never call the cops. I don't care. See, he's got free will. He can go where he wants. He can be abducted when he wants to be abducted. Who am I to judge? So I didn't do that. So we have some exciting stuff on the show, which I'm going to try to, I don't know, maybe if I should possibly try to do different voices. Because, folks, I'm not going to lie to you. This is the first time that I have done a solo show since the Beatles first hit America. And I remember those days when the Beatles first hit America and I was doing my podcasts. And those were heady days. But it's been a while. It's been a while, so here I am. I'm doing a solo show. I'm not with Dimitri, although tomorrow now you guys got to go to fprnradio.com because I know my bro cuz Niz is not going to let me down. Niz is going to be on that show. That's Disassociation Nation. Go to fprnradio.com/listen-live and you'll find us. We're on tomorrow night at 8 p.m. We're going to feature Cal Molinet, and we're going to be talking about what he's doing in Richmond. And what he's doing with Richmond is quite fascinating. He is building a network of libertarian, voluntarist, ANCAPers, whatever you want to call these folks. And we're going to talk to him about how he's done that and some of the stuff with what kind of experiences that they've been having as they've been coming together in this wonderful Liberty Union. And I want to know like serious questions like how do they handle conflict, stuff like that. So there you go. I think that we are done with the hey, how's everybody doing part of the show. It might have gone a little bit longer if Dimitri was here, but since Dimitri's not here, by the way, did I let you guys know that Dimitri wasn't here? I'm just checking out if anybody has picked up on that vibe. We're going to move into the next segment of the show. And I just wanted to warn you of a few changes that we've made to the show. First of all, we are now going to only talk about crochet. From this moment on, how you can use crochet to spread the message of liberty and teach liberty to all. I hope I didn't lose anyone, because, I'm just saying.
I like eggs. I like eggs.
Yes, that's exactly. So that's by the way, when you hear that sound, that means that something ridiculous has just happened. And I also have another one that I'm going to play, which I'm going to say for now it means something ridiculous has happened, but it may develop some sort of nuanced meaning to it. But for now, they're just both going to mean you've just heard something ridiculous, because I have learned when I watch a movie, when there's a dramatic scene, I won't know it's a dramatic scene unless it's music. So instead of music, I'm just going to use little sound effects just to let the audience know the emotion that you should be feeling. And the prevailing emotion that you should be feeling tonight is, oh my gosh, that's so ridiculous. So this is the other sound effect, and I had to pay good money for these sound effects, so love them.
I don't taste no milkshake there, bub.
See that tells you all you need to know. When you hear
I don't taste no milkshake there, bub.
You know that you've seriously gone wrong with the world. And I'm going to guide you past.
I don't taste no milkshake there, bub.
And I'm going to put you in a happy place where you say,
I like eggs. I like eggs.
You see how simple it is? So let's get to our first our first amazing story. First of all, I'm going to turn the gain up a little bit. I'm doing a little adjustment of my microphone, and I'm doing it on live radio. But I'm making it entertaining, so it's cool. So I pulled up my gain a little bit. I have to turn my gain down because there was a certain individual in this fine studio that I call my home that decided, you know what I'm going to do? I know it's going to do a show at 10 o'clock. I'm going to take a shower right at 10 o'clock because it's cool. So that was going on. So it turned down the gain so you didn't hear the shower. And now the shower's done. So I can turn the gain back up so you can hear. Tell me that is a nice sound. That is a sweet, sweet sound.
I don't taste no milkshake there, bub.
Uh-oh. I ventured into a bad place. So let's get to our first story. In our first story here, we are going to introduce this story by playing a clip here which is going to be about the refugee crisis in Germany, where you had all the rape assaults. This is going to lead to our first story that we're going to look at, which is about the German government wanting to send some refugees back. And we'll talk a little bit about what that means. But remember, this is the newsfire segment, so we ain't going to go into too much detail. So you just have to fill in the blanks. So here you go. This is I forget where I got this from. Dang it. Oh well. Listen and enjoy.
Joining us on the phone from Cologne, Germany, London Times correspondent Alan Hall. So what really happened here, Mr. Hall?
It was a mob of about 1,000 men we are told by the victims and by the eyewitnesses, of Arabic or Middle Eastern-looking appearance. They rampaged through the main station in the square outside next to the famous Gothic cathedral. They fired fireworks through the crowd. And with all these fireworks going off, the celebrations of New Year's Eve, they took the opportunity to surround these women, rob them, and in some cases, seriously sexually assault them.
Now, was this a certain group of people? How do you get 1,000 people rampaging? How do you do that?
Well, this was 1,000 men that gathered outside. It's a very big square. And what happened was these guys, according to the victims, peeled off into groups of between 3 and 20, surrounded women in either singularly or in groups of 2 or 3, interfered with them sexually, and took the opportunity to rob them. And
are they all Muslim men? Has that been established?
No, it has not been established. It has only been established that all the victims, and so far it is 118 in Cologne, say that they were of a North African or Arabic appearance and spoke Arabic or some other language, but not German.
Now, we hear over here in New York that the German media was reluctant to cover the story. Is that true?
I think it is true. I think the background to that is that, as you know, Germany has accepted in over 1 million people last year. There is a great strain on the social fabric in this country. There's no getting away from that. You probably see in America the numerous assaults, firebombs, other attacks on accommodation and on individuals. And I think I don't think it was a question of sweeping it under the carpet. I think it was a question of trying to get it right. Because at this stage, the authorities are still saying we don't think these people that committed these assaults are actually asylum seekers. They think they are people that have been in the country for a long time. And today there was a report from the city of Dusseldorf, which is only 30 miles down the road, that said that there has been a similar series of attacks over the last 15 months in Dusseldorf in the same manner from a group of men from Algeria and Morocco.
Interesting.
So it seems to be a new form of crime.
All right, and then, public safety, obviously this is not going to go down well with the anti-immigrant forces in Germany. Mr. Hall, we appreciate it very much.
So there you go with that awesomeness, which is not awesome. And that was, of course, Mr. Bill O'Reilly. And we all love Bill O'Reilly, don't we? Because Bill O'Reilly can interrupt people and shut them down like nobody else can. Anybody who has a microphone, who has the power to turn the microphone off on a guest, nobody does that kind of thing better than Mr. Bill O'Reilly. But I don't want to start a Bill O'Reilly rant. I'm going to pretend that Dimitri's here preventing me from going down Crazy Road, because I was about ready to go down Crazy Road and totally wreck this train. But I did not wreck this train. I used my inner Dimitri voice to prevent myself from wrecking the train, and we're staying on course. So where we're going with this is this. So what it is what it is from Washington Times, we get this story. Germany, well, I gave it this cute, clever title. Germany is an Indian taker. Did you say Indian taker? It's like Indian giver. Dude, that's racist. Dude, that is so racist. But listen, relax, folks. I'm a Philadelphia Eagles fan, so I hate the Washington Redskins. So it's cool. So I'm going to read this in my 1930s style news voice because I get a lot of emails from the people inside my head that say, dude, that 1930s news voice, that is the way to go with this. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Germany Vice Chancellor Sigmar Gabriel threatened this week to withdraw aid from North African countries if they refuse to take back rejected asylum seekers. The German government has in recent weeks cited problems expelling migrants from Algeria and Morocco, saying their home countries were uncooperative and refused to take them back because of missing identity documents. Germany is more than willing to give economic aid to North Africa, but only when the governments there reciprocate it by pumping us up. No, by allowing people whose asylum applications have been rejected to travel back into the country, Mr. Gabriel told German public broadcaster ARD. A-R-D. ARD. Tensions over a massive influx of migrants to Germany reached a boiling point after hundreds of women were sexually assaulted on New Year's Eve in Cologne by, quote-unquote, men of North African appearance. So there you have it. And I think that the powers that be are, I still haven't decided with this whether the powers that be are looking at this and saying everything is going just right, or if they're like, dude, holy crap, this is getting a little bit out of hand, man. I didn't expect things to go so freaking fast. But, well, it is going pretty fast, what's going on in Germany. And if Dimitri was here, I would say the same thing I just said. So there. I would say exactly what I just said. I wouldn't say it any differently than what I just said it. The bottom line is that something's rotten in the state of Germany and Denmark and Finland and Sweden and all the rest of the European countries. And I can't quite put my finger on what's going on. But what's missing from the news, you don't see the countervailing reports. And I should have maybe brought some of that in. Maybe we'll do we'll definitely be covering this topic a lot on this show. Some of the reports that you won't see on mainstream media, you'll see it like on European small publications. You might find some stuff of the Muslims who actually came to the aid of the Germans who were being assaulted by these idiots. You won't see that. So there's something going on in Germany that I have no doubt that the powers that be are happy with this rising hatred of all things Muslim, of all things refugee, and this rising feeling of insecurity. But it's a delicate balance that they have to walk, because on one hand, they really, really, really want the people to say, we're afraid, please, can we join your military and go kill people, please? And then the other side of that is, we're really, really afraid, and we're pissed off that you're not doing anything about it, so we're going to burn your buildings down. See, that's the line that they're playing with. So we'll go on to the next story. And the next story, we have promised, I have titled this show, I can't remember the exact title because, who remembers titles? But it's basically, Bernie's not a libertarian. Even though, in the scale of things, it's not even our main story that we're going to talk about. It's one of our newsfire stories. But when I saw online this story from Reason, which we're going to get to, I'm going to read the quote from Reason, in which basically it says, Bernie Sanders is like the most libertarian of all the candidates that are left. So what I did is I went out and I got myself some Bernie Sanders mouth stuff. And that would be Bernie Sanders says stuff from his own mouth. And pretty much Bernie Sanders, if he was talking to Reason Magazine and they said, dude, you're a libertarian, and he'd be like, dude, you crazy. You was crazy. I ain't no libertarian. I'm a Democrat socialist. Don't you be coming at me here with that libertarian stuff. As a matter of fact, I'm going to let Bernie's here. That's a special guest he's brought to us all the way from YouTube land. It's Bernie Sanders. He's right here. And he's got some words of wisdom to say. And you know what? Just because I know that Bernie Sanders is going to say something that I'm just going to go to this place, I'm just going to play this in advance. And I'll probably play it afterwards. I don't know. We'll see. But I need to say this now.
I like eggs.
Yeah.
I like eggs.
Yeah. Yeah, I do. You know, I like them eggs. I like them free eggs, too, especially when the free eggs come from somebody else's farm that didn't want to give them to me, but government showed up with some guns and said, dude, them eggs, give them. And then they drop them off at my door. Well, they drop off like 2 or 3 at my door. They take like 8 or 9. But that's another story. Anyway, Mr. Sanders, well, you know what? I'm going to let Anderson Cooper ask the question for me because Anderson Cooper is awesome.
You call yourself a democratic socialist. How can any kind of socialist win a general election in the United States?
Well, we're going to win because first we're going to explain what democratic socialism is. And what democratic socialism is about is saying that it is immoral and wrong that the top 0.1% in this country own almost 90%, own almost as much wealth as the bottom 90%. That it is wrong today in a rigged economy that 57% of all new income is going to the top 1%. That when you look around the world, you see every other major country providing health care to all people as a right, except the United States. You see every other major country saying to moms that when you have a baby, we're not going to separate you from your newborn baby because we are going to have medical and family paid leave like every other country on earth. Those are some of the principles that I believe in, and I think we should look to countries like Denmark, like Sweden, and Norway, and learn from what they have accomplished for their working people.
You don't consider yourself a capitalist, though?
Do I consider myself part of the casino capitalist process by which so few have so much and so many have so little, by which Wall Street, greed and recklessness wreck this economy? No, I don't. I believe in a society where all people do well, not just a handful of billionaires.
That's the party. That's the party that happens. When Bernie gets elected, that's the party. You know what? I don't know. I don't think I'm done with the party yet. Because when I hear all this stuff about free stuff, Bernie Sanders is going to end greed. The very, very core driver that human beings have. Well, it's not the core driver, but one of the core drivers that human beings have, this thing called greed. Bernie's going to end it. I mean, that deserves a party. I'm partying. This is a party celebrating the end of greed. Bernie killed greed. Yes! Oh my gosh, yes! Yeah, this is so awesome! Greed is dead! But you know what's going to happen, of course, when Bernie takes over and he implements his quote-unquote democratic socialist programs. Because he can't read the market right, because he doesn't have that actual price indicator that tells the real value that a product or a service is to human beings. Stuff's going to start to go wrong. People are going to start to go around the system. And when people start going around the system, you're going to have to write more laws and regulations and rules. And you're going to have to make more and more penalties, including and eventually leading to death. So, the person who wants the free stuff is going to be like realizing pretty soon it's not really free stuff. What it really means is the government owns your butt. The government owns your butt. So they're going to be like driving up for the free stuff, and it's going to be like a vapor taking a hit on a breathalyzer, thinking that the breathalyzer is going to give them some sweetness, but it doesn't. So this is what they're both going to say this. This is what they're going to say.
I don't taste no milkshake there, bub.
See, that's what's going to happen. He is the no milkshake bub candidate. Let's be honest. Let's just make it what it is. He is the milkshake bub candidate. Now, listen, I think most of my audience, and I have like 4 people that listen to me, and I love you guys. I love all 4 of you. And by the way, the 4 people are me, myself, I, and a guy that's been showing up lately called Who the Heck Am I? I love Who the Heck Am I? By the way, that guy is the bomb. That guy shows up and he'd be like, you know, who, you know, the Who Am I guy, the Who Am I guy. He'd be showing up, and you're like, dude, this guy's metaphysical. He is gonna drop some knowledge on you, and you say, okay, man, go ahead, say what you gotta say.
I like eggs.
That's all he says.
I like eggs.
Pretty much all he says. Now, my audience, for the most part, you guys know what Bernie Sanders is. You guys know what democratic socialism is. And you guys know that democratic socialism will inevitably lead to 2 places. One, it'll lead away from democratic socialism. You'll have to do more free market or some sort of mercantile market or some sort of fascist market. Or you're going to head towards socialism, communism, all that horrible stuff that you know, it produces corpses, the corpse path. Let's just call it the corpse path. We all understand that, but apparently Reason Magazine, which is supposed to be a paradigm of libertarianism. Now, I understand that Reason Magazine is the libertarian political wing of libertarianism, and many folks within the libertarian movement would say, dude, libertarian political stuff is like an oxymoron. But let's just argue, or let's just say for the sake of argument, that libertarian political crap is not an oxymoron. Still, even with that, this is not what you write when you're a libertarian. Now, if I read this and I'm like, oh, I see what he means, I don't care. I'm running with it anyway because it's a good story. Reason Magazine. This is from Robbie Sove. I don't know how you pronounce his last name. S-O-A-V-E. Suave. You know, I bet you it's Sove, but now that he's probably listening to the show, because, I mean, why wouldn't he listen to me? Why wouldn't anyone want to listen to me? Paul Gordon Collier, dropping some knowledge. Why wouldn't you want to listen to me? So, Mr. Robbie Sove, if you're listening, I suggest you change your name to Suave. What you need to do is, right after the O, you add one of them, what do you call it, those accent mark thingies. That's a technical term, accent mark thingies. You add that accent mark thingy after that O, and now it's Robbie Suave. See, Robbie Suave instead of Robbie Sove, or whatever, however you pronounce your name. Anyway, he's a staff editor at Reason.com. Well, at least he's just a staff editor. It'd be really weird if he was like a managing editor, something like that. So I'm trying to figure out what kind of voice that I should use for my entering into Robbie Sove land. And let me think. Let me think about that. What kind of voice should I use to enter Robbie Sove land? I'm not going to make him Suave, because Robbie Suave is like, he's awesome. Robbie Sove. I mean, Robbie Sove. Seriously, Robbie Sove. It's like when a widget breaks in your house, you call Robbie Sove. Yeah, my widget broke. Oh, your widget broke. I'll be right there. My name is Robbie Sove. I'll be right there. You know what? This is my voice. This is my Robbie Sove voice. I just had to think about a widget, and I found my Robbie Sove voice. So we're going to go ahead and read this. It says, I am now Robbie Sove, and I'm going to drop some knowledge on you. I should say that as a question mark. Knowledge on you. Indeed, it's worth recognizing that among the 5 most plausible presidential candidates at this stage of the campaign, Donald Trump, Ted Cruz, Marco Rubio, Clinton, and Sanders, there's only one articulated. That's kind of funny. I just screwed up the word articulating. Come on, man. Do you not see the irony in that? There's only one articulating something approaching a libertarian position on a chunk of issues, civil liberties and foreign policy. That candidate is Sanders. One can argue, of course, that Sanders' sensible views on these subjects are more than canceled out by his desire to impose higher taxes and cumbersome financial regulations on the American people. Oh yeah, one can argue that. One can definitely argue that. I would argue that the bad column outweighs the good column in the Sanders case. Now, he's saying that there's an actual weighing of good and bad with Bernie Sanders going on in his cray-cray head, as it does for virtually every politician seeking higher office. But while there's little to like about Sanders beyond his praise for Edward Snowden and condemnation of military adventurism. Bernie Sanders has a voting record, by the way, that belies his apparent stance against quote-unquote military adventurism. He seems to vote for it often. There's virtually nothing to like about any of his rivals. When it comes to government policy, Sanders has signaled his preference for executive restraint on at least a few issues. I bet you Bernie Sanders supported the executive action by Mr. Barry Barack. Can I call him Barry Barack? Would that be disrespectful? Hello there, Mr. Barry Barack. Oh, you call me president. My name is president. You just call me president. I bet you he didn't oppose his executive actions on gun control. But hey, let's just move on. Let's just pretend we didn't hear that. Because, on civil liberties, see, this is when the cray-cray starts to come out of me, and this is where a certain individual, which I will not name because I've named him numerous times and pointed out that he's not on this show, would kind of intervene and stop the cray-cray. But the cray-cray wants to come out because the idea that this guy is good on civil liberties, when he is ready to compel the government to take up guns, to knock on your door and take your guns, it's cray-cray. I think I got to use cray-cray a lot when I'm reading anything about Bernie Sanders in which somebody is trying to convince you that, hey, man, he's not that bad. He's not that bad. Seriously, man, he's not that bad. It's like, when you're getting at that poison stuff, that serious poison stuff that tastes like almonds. Can't remember what it's called because I'm drawing a total freaking blank. Because that's what you do when you're on the radio. You draw a freaking blank over something stupid. But anyway, that poison stuff that tastes like almonds, when you take that poison stuff in, it tastes kind of nice for about a second. And then it drops you like a stone. So that's what Bernie Sanders says. It tastes like nice for a second, then it drops you like a stone. So anyway, when it comes to government policy, Sanders has signaled his preference for executive restraint on at least a few issues, which is more than Clinton, Trump, Cruz, or Rubio can say. Interesting he didn't include Rand Paul in that list, even though Rand Paul is still running for president. And, in some places, in some areas, he's actually beating Rubio. But anyway, let's just move on. And, I'm so glad that he's comparing him to Hillary Clinton because, there's so many people within the libertarian community that are like, Clinton, have we thought about Clinton? Have we given Clinton a fair chance? He deserves some praise for his stances on these issues, regardless of whether his liberal critics view them as a weakness. And I am Robbie I fix your widgets. That's about all this Robbie Sove should be doing after this time. He should be, does Reason.com, do they still use widgets on their websites? Do we use widgets anymore? If we do use widgets, I think that Robbie Sove should be a widget repairer instead of what he is, which is I actually don't know what to call Robbie Sove. I'm not going to pretend to call Robbie Sove anything other than the widget fixer. He's the widget fixer. He's a widget fixer. He's a widget fixer. Do you guys like it when I sing? I would like to get some feedback on that. If you guys could write me at paul@stateofwake.com. And for my Facebook friends that are listening, could you just private message me and say, dude, your singing is sweet. We need more singing from Paul. And I'll consider singing more on the show. But that's it. That's all you get for the rest of the show, unless something moves in me. Unless the cray-cray comes out in the form of a singing voice. In which case, that's what's going to happen. Now we're going to move into a long part of this show. And I'm going to set something up for you here because, we're going to talk about Maryland Senator Barb Mikulski. She has been a senator of Maryland. I believe that she has been a senator of Maryland since the days of Solon. She was a transplant from that fine Athenian government, and she's been serving with distinction. I mean, if poop is a distinction, dude, she's serving with distinction. So she was yesterday. She was talking about the Senate hearing that's coming up, investigating the executive actions that President Obama took recently on gun control. The most scariest of all of the executive actions has to do with encouraging doctors to let people know if some crazy loon might have a gun or might be in a house with a gun. Because that's cool, because, you know, doctors are an integral part of the state police machine. Make no mistake about it. If you're going to have a state police machine, you're going to need the doctors. Just look at the Nazis. The doctors were totally on board, and they needed to be on board with all the cray-cray coming out of the Nazis. So that's the craziest thing, which I don't know how much they're going to address that or not, because this is the GOP, which means the GOP, which is short for Goofy Old Poop. I believe that is their new moniker, Goofy Old Poop. I think that the instead of an elephant, it's now elephant poop. That's the new symbol of the GOP, elephant poop, with a little rhino poop on top. Because, you know, hey, I haven't said rhino all day. So I worked that in. So she said some cray-cray stuff, and I made a short little, I made a video, but I also made an audio. By the way, all these things that I'm going over, you guys can look at these, and this will also be the archive page. I'll go over these on the shows. It's something I'm starting with this show. And I got this idea from Tom Woods, because I do listen to Tom Woods, and he has this methodology where he uses TomWoods.com / the number of his show. Well, I can't exactly do the number of my show because I can't. That's another matter altogether. That has to do with WordPress. I use a WordPress site. Yeah, I love WordPress. You got a problem with WordPress? Bring it. Come at me, bro. So if you go to stateofwake.com / show 6, the number 6, show 6, because this is the 6th show, you will find the show notes. You will find videos and stuff. And actually, I got to correct one of these things here. It has a video in the wrong place, which I will have to correct in due time. So, and that's actually right here. A video for Barbara Mikulski has the wrong video there. I'm not going to say what the video is. And don't go to the show page yet until after I've had a chance to correct it. So I'm not going to read what she said. Instead, I'm going to let Miss Barbara go ahead, and she's gonna kind of speak for herself. And I enhanced it a little bit. I just wanted to make sure that I stress the really, really juicy part. And if you listen really carefully, you're going to hear how she totally contradicts herself. But I wanted to make sure that I put the contradiction in there to be fair, because when you're striving for poop excellence, the least that I can do is to make sure that I fully display the poop excellence for everyone. So here we go. Barbara, we have Barbara on the line now. Barbara, I understand that you want to say a few words. You want to say a few words about this upcoming hearing on the executive actions by President Obama. Oh yes, I would. I would love to say a few words here. Okay, Barbara, you sound remarkably like that Sove dude. Yes, I do. We're related. Yes, we are related. As a matter of fact, I'm probably the most libertarian senator in the Senate right now. That's what Sove said. Yeah, I bet that's what Sove said. So go ahead, Barbara. Drop it.
So let's solve the problem. Let's not get involved in constitutional arguments. This hearing does tackle the very pressing issue of guns and gun violence. When the average of 300 Americans are shot every day, 90 of them will die, almost a third. We do need to change our nation's culture of violence.
We do need to stop guns getting into the wrong hands, the criminals, those with mental illness, without infringing on the right of law-abiding citizens to purchase firearms. So let's solve the problem. Let's not get involved in constitutional arguments. But know that I do support the president's measure on guns. He is within his constitutional authority to act, and many of these activities, like adding more FBI and ATF agents, have strongly been supported by this committee. I do look forward to hearing the Attorney General, Loretta Lynch's testimony today on the president's recent announcement on guns and the impact it will have on the American people, and will it make us safe? No mincing, no message, no talking points. Will it really help the American people? Are we within our constitutional boundaries? We do respect the Constitution. And also, though, its impact on the Justice Department, on the ability to deal with this. But this is not only a Justice Department problem. I just left the HELP hearing where we're holding a hearing on mental illness. And for so many of people who are victims of gun violence, the volatile combination of mental illness and access to guns are dangerous. Mr. Chairman, I look forward, though, not to me talking and listening to myself, but listening to the Attorney General and listening to this wonderful panel that you've invited to participate today. So let's solve the problem. Let's not get involved in constitutional arguments, and let's help our American people be safe and secure in their home, their neighborhood, their school, and their house of worship. Let's not get involved in constitutional arguments.
Yeah. I respect the Constitution, and, we're going to look at all the constitutional issues. But let's not get into any constitutional arguments. Now, you're going to have to take my word for it, because this is just excerpts from her wonderful, wonderful speech that she gave, lauding the awesomeness that is the Senate, and what the Senate is going to awesomely do to guarantee the safety and the security of Americans in their homes, in their businesses, in their schools, and their places of worship. You'll have to trust me when I tell you, not once did she use the phrase gun control. I bet you Frank Luntz had some sort of test group. They're like, dude, this whole gun control thing, you know what we should call it? You know what? Dude, I got it. All they need to do is call it gun change. It's not gun control, it's just gun change. It's just changing the way that we do guns, changing the gun culture, so that we kind of accept the idea that if you want to have a gun, that you need to get licensed by the government, and you need to be approved by the government. If you're putting stuff out there that's a little bit weird, it's for the benefit and the protection of the American people. And if your doctor says you cry, you ain't getting no gun. You ain't getting no gun. So that's the way it is. You ain't getting no gun. So I'm just saying.
I like eggs. I like eggs.
I don't know if I can do that enough. I really don't know. I should just, the rest of the show, I should just play that over and over and over again. But I'm not going to. Instead, I'm going to go on to the next story. And the next story is, well, I'm putting this in the weird column. And it's a little stretch. Usually we're not going to have a political story in the weird column. But I really wanted to cover this. I couldn't put it anywhere. And it is weird. It's a little weird. I guess maybe it's weird if you believe in government. But if you kind of know what government is, maybe it's not so weird. So for my conservatarian friends out there, my minarchist friends that are out there, I just want you to embrace this very lovely story. This is a story of how government is able to figure out the kind of money that it needs to take from people and invest in other places to make you more money. You don't really have a say in having the money taken from you. You don't really have a say in picking who's going to, invest the money for you, whether you think they're going to do a good job. But hey, you don't need that, because you're part of the social contract. And the social contract means if the government wants to take your money and invest it in some crappy deal, it can do that. So this is from the bullelephant.com. That's right, the bullelephant.com. And I think this is 30's voice. I think this is 30's news radio voice for this. So I'm going to go ahead and drop 30's news radio voice on you. Just over a year ago in November 2014, Virginia Governor Terry McAuliffe beamed with pride at having concluded a deal to bring 349 jobs to the ailing economy around Appomattox. The plan was to use various state economic development incentives, including an upfront payment of $1.4 million from the Governor's Opportunity Fund. From the governor's press release at the time, Governor Terry McAuliffe announced today that Lindenberg Industries, LLC, a subsidiary of a Chinese-owned corporation, will invest $113 million to establish an industrial honeycomb manufacturing operation in the town of Appomattox, in Appomattox County. This project, which represents the first new company announcement in Appomattox in 15 years, and the largest since Thomasville Furniture began construction in 1972, and we've all heard of Thomasville Furniture, no doubt, is a direct result of the governor's meeting with company officials in Beijing, China, during his Asia marketing mission last month. Virginia successfully competed against North Carolina for the project, which will create 349 new jobs. So, I have to do something. I have to say something.
I don't taste no milkshake there, bub.
So that's kind of what happened here. See, they inhaled, and there was no taste. Because the article continues. But as it turns out, McAuliffe's enthusiasm about prevailing over the Tar Heel state was misplaced. You see, the Chinese quote-unquote company has now apparently bailed out without refunding the governor's check. Oh! It seemed that folks in North Carolina were a wee bit more responsible with taxpayer funds. They did background research that the governor's office did not. In fact, an investigation by the Roanoke Times found that Virginia analysts relied on a Catalan chemical company website produced in China that featured misleading information, including using an address at 90 Piedmont Industrial Drive in Winston-Salem. The Winston-Salem Journal is one of several sources that verified the company never had operations at Piedmont Triad Industrial Park, the former Stroh's Brewery plant. Ooh, a Stroh's. Anybody remember Stroh's beer? Dude, I'm wandering off now. I saw a bright and shiny object. Stroh's beer. You guys don't remember Stroh's beer? You youngins don't remember no Stroh's beer. I remember Stroh's beer. I used to like me some fire brewed Stroh's. But anyway, so these guys just took the Stroh's Brewery plant address. And the really smart people in the government, well, you know. So that's cool. I think this kind of speaks for itself. I don't know if I have anything more illuminating and awesome to add to this, other than, well, if I really think about it, I think that this warrants a twofer. Not a one-fer, but a twofer.
I don't taste no milkshake there, bub.
See, that's what happened here. That is a non-milkshake tasting deal. So the Virginia taxpayers are out $1.3 million. And that Chinese company got themselves some $1.3 million. And what are you going to do? You're going to chase them to China? You think China's going to turn them over? Your host, your host. Dude, you're totally host. Dude, you're totally host. Now we're going to get to the wonderful, fantastic tech story. And yes, the tech story also has a political element. I apologize, but seriously, this is a big tech story. This is all kinds of ramifications. It's not like we haven't seen examples of this before, but you think about the revolution that was Twitter. I was there. I wasn't with Twitter in the very beginning, but it was close to the beginning. I started using Twitter somewhere around 2008. I was there with the Don't Go movement, the Don't Go hashtag. I was there earlier with TCOT. As a matter of fact, my company that I'm part owner of, which I can't reveal on radio because the co-owners would probably have me sent to Virginia. I don't want to go to Virginia right now with that governor. Ain't going no Virginia when they take my money and give them Chinese. But anyway, Twitter was the liberator. It was the voice of the dissenters. I remember Iran election. Do you remember the Green Revolution? Do you remember Iran election? I was part of that. I was heavy into doing my part for the Green Revolution. I tweeted and retweeted and posted stories and did everything I can. I helped in all kinds of ways. And now Twitter is something different. And so is Facebook and YouTube and all the rest. Because they're all owned and operated by stockholders who do not have, well, let's just say the stockholders. I'm not talking about the small stockholders. I'm talking about the big players. These guys, they're part of the whole, the machine that is the government, the corporations. They're all one family, all working together. I'm starting to get my cray-cray out again. I'm going to try to reel back in the cray-cray, but let me just say this. The times, they are a-changing. So I'm going to play this clip, and I think that this is from RT. And yes, I do realize that RT is basically Russia Times, is Russian propaganda. But what they're reporting here did actually happen. So, here we go.
Just a week after mass assaults against women by a group of Arab and North African men in the German city of Cologne, the authorities are cracking down on hate speech against migrants. Germany has reached a deal with social media giants to remove any offensive comments deemed to be targeting asylum seekers. Twitter, Facebook and Google have pledged to abide by German domestic laws when reviewing posts. Online, the move has already been condemned as censorship. Some saying Angela Merkel is taking Germany down the North Korean path of dealing with dissent. And one user thinks such political correctness undermines the freedom of opinion. In the meantime, more women are now coming forward in Cologne saying they were attacked. The number of criminal complaints has now risen to over 120, while 2 of the suspects have now been identified as that of Moroccan citizens.
So there you go. Now, this is an incredibly stupid move. Well, on the face of it. But again, I haven't quite figured out the game that these guys are playing. I'm not sure the degree to which they really do want to upset people. And I don't give them omnipotent, omnipresent, omniscient power. So they may be miscalculating. Again, like I said earlier, they have to walk this fine line between pitchforks that show up at their door and burn their houses down and cries to join the military to go out and kill some people. They want the cries to join the military and go out and kill some people, but they're whipping folks up to a frenzy. And this move is actually emboldening and angering the anti-refugee movement in Germany even more. The idea that the German government has negotiated with social media to basically bury dissent. It feeds into the narrative that the only reason that you're bringing these refugees in here is to destroy our country, is to destroy our way of life. And I'm not saying that that's not true. There may be some truth to that. I'm not sure. Again, I haven't quite figured out what the powers that be are. But whether it's true or not, this move doesn't help And again, this might just be a knee-jerk reaction of authoritarians. Authoritarians don't understand that sometimes it's actually better to let people voice their dissent than to try to force them to go underground. Unless, of course, you have secret police in every house and you are willing to randomly assassinate people and apply a very strategic terror, such as the Soviet Union did, most notably under Stalin. If you're not willing to go that far, then what they've done here is a very bad move if their genuine goal is to help the refugees and give them a chance to be accepted. And I believe in what I believe about human beings. I just don't believe that even a significant minority of refugees are just clamoring at the chance to go around and rape white women. I believe 95% more really do just want to live, like not have a bomb dropped on them, and to be able to live the life that they want to live. It's this human instinct that we have. We want to live the life that we choose and not be coerced by others to live the life that they want us to live. So I'm not sure what game they're playing here. But either way, it's very disturbing. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go to the Breitbart article, Breitbart.com. This is their tech division. And this is what is written. A power the Stasi, or yes, the Gestapo, could only dream of has been handed to German Chancellor Angela Merkel. At her behest, the social network has begun a Europe-wide campaign, the social network they're referring to here is Facebook, to counter so-called hate speech on its platform. It is also working with a German publisher to remove racist posts in Germany. With more communication than ever before taking place on platforms like Facebook, this level of censorship is unprecedented. Previously, censors were limited by the amount of people they could send to monitor underground bookstores. You just take that in. Now, with human communication mediated by an ever-shrinking list of tech companies, computer algorithms can be used to monitor and censor the speech of entire nations. The future is here, not the one envisaged by Gene Roddenberry, but by George Orwell. And I just want to add that we are actually living in an Orwellian Huxley world. You should read 1984, but you should also read Brave New World, because we are a hybrid of those two. What prompted this sudden, unprecedented wave of censorship? Only the blind could miss it. The worst predictions of immigration skeptics have been realized. Now, I'm not quite with them, what they're going to say here, but with hordes of refugees from misogynistic, war-torn societies unleashing a sea of violence and sexual assault on European society. Popular anger at the state of affairs, particularly in Germany, is at an all-time high. I really don't think that you have hordes of refugees that are looking to rape white women and bomb people and murder people and do whatever other mayhem that you think that these folks want to do. These folks want to get jobs. They want to, well, I'll say many of them want to get jobs. Some of them have been lured because they really believe that they can just get free stuff. Now, if they knew that they weren't going to get free stuff, they may have a different attitude, but they believe that they're going to get some free stuff. And those folks, they may be in for a rude awakening. But if it is proven beyond a shadow of a doubt that the overwhelming majority of refugees just want to rape white women, you know what? I will eat my dog. I will eat my dog. I have a dog. His name is Maximo. He is awesome. I really don't want to eat him. So let's not make this true, folks. I'll eat him on live TV. I'll call up Fox News. I'm sure they'll show up and say, I'm going to eat this dog. I'm going to eat him on live TV. I'm just going to eat him. I will do that. Because I'm that confident that no one's ever going to show that to me. Because I'm that confident in human beings. That when you give human beings a chance to be who they want to be, that they don't want to mess around with other folks' stuff. But that's just me. So I'm going to move on to our national topic is actually going to begin with a rather long clip. And this clip, for many of my libertarian-leaning friends, there's a whole folks from limited government, minarchists, voluntarists, whatever group you belong to, most of you who have been in that world for any serious length of time, you have heard this already. But it bears listening to again. It is one of the best. And there's another one out there that I think is really close to it, maybe just as good. And it's by Larkin. I got it from Larkin Rose. I don't know if he created it or not. I think he did. But it's I can't remember the name of it now. But it's about enslavement too. And this is called The Story of Your Enslavement, which is by Stephen Molyneux. Really one of the absolute best explanations for what the nature of government really is. And this is going to lead us into looking at two stories that show that this government is losing its hold of power. And when you lose your hold of power, you grab tighter. And that's what's going on. So this is going to set up that. So I'm going to play this for 13 minutes. And during this 13-minute period of time, I am going to, just in case, I'm going to go look online, and I'm going to look up dog barbecue sauces, dog seasoning. I'm 99.99999% sure that I will not have to eat my dog, but just in case. I think that the prudent thing would be, because I'm a man of my word, is just to be careful. Hey, Max, come here once, buddy. Come here, Max. Maximo. Max. Hey, buddy. Oh, my dog is totally ignoring me. He never ignores me. Come here, buddy, Max. Come here, buddy. I'm trying to get my dog to come over here and say something to the audience. Come here. Come on, bud. Come on, say something. Say something to the audience. My dog is actually pretty quiet. He is, I'm not exactly sure what he is, but I think that he is a pit bull cane corso mix. He's a big boy. He's 70 pounds. Probably needs to gain another 5 pounds. He's an awesome boy. And I love this dog. I seriously love my boy. So when I make a bet in which I could possibly eat my dog, I do so with confidence. Yeah, that's right. Because I don't want to eat my dog. He's looking at me. He has no idea what I'm saying to him. Hey, yes, I'm going to eat you. I'm going to eat you tomorrow. He's all excited. His tail is wagging. He loves it. He has no idea. He has no idea. So anyway, without much further ado, go ahead, Paul, and play Mr. Stephen Molyneux, The Story of Your Enslavement. Enjoy.
This is the story of your enslavement. How it came to be, and how you can finally be free. Like all animals, human beings want to dominate and exploit the resources around them. At first we mostly hunted and fished and ate off the land, but then something magical and terrible happened to our minds. We became, alone among the animals, afraid of death and of future loss. And this was the start of a great tragedy and an even greater possibility. You see, when we become afraid of death, of injury and imprisonment, we become controllable and so valuable in a way that no other resource could ever be. The greatest resource for any human being to control is not natural resources or tools or animals or land, but other human beings. You can frighten an animal because animals are afraid of pain in the moment. But you cannot frighten an animal with a loss of liberty, with torture or imprisonment in the future, because animals have very little sense of tomorrow. You cannot threaten a cow with torture or a sheep with death. You cannot swing a sword at a tree and scream at it to produce more fruit, or hold a burning torch to a field and demand more wheat. You cannot get more eggs by threatening a hen, but you can get a man to give you his eggs by threatening him. This human farming has been the most profitable and destructive occupation throughout history, and it is now reaching its destructive climax. Human society cannot be rationally understood until it is seen for what it is: a series of farms where human farmers own human livestock. Some people get confused because governments provide healthcare and water and education and roads, and thus imagine that there is some benevolence at work. Nothing could be further from the reality. Farmers provide healthcare and irrigation and training to their livestock. Some people get confused because we are allowed certain liberties and thus imagine that our governments protect our freedoms. But farmers plant their crops a certain distance apart to increase their yields, and will allow certain animals larger stalls or fields if it means they will produce more meat and milk. In your country, your tax farm, your farmer grants you certain freedoms, not because he cares about your liberties, but because he wants to increase his profits. Are you beginning to see the nature of the cage you were born into? There have been 4 major phases of human farming. The first phase in ancient Egypt was direct and brutal human compulsion. Human bodies were controlled, but the creative productivity of the human mind remained beyond the reach of the whip and the brand and the shackles. Slaves remained woefully underproductive and required enormous resources to control. The second phase was the Roman model, wherein slaves were granted some capacity for freedom, ingenuity, and creativity, which raised their productivity. This increased the wealth of Rome, and thus the tax income of the Roman government, and with this additional wealth Rome became an empire, destroying the economic freedoms that fed its power, and collapsed. I'm sure that this does not seem entirely unfamiliar. After the collapse of Rome, the feudal model introduced the concept of livestock ownership and taxation. Instead of being directly owned, peasants farmed land that they could retain as long as they paid off the local warlords. This model eventually broke down due to the continual subdivision of productive land and was destroyed during the enclosure movement when land was consolidated and hundreds of thousands of peasants were kicked off their ancestral lands because new farming techniques made larger farms more productive with fewer people. The increased productivity of the later Middle Ages created the excess food required for the expansion of towns and cities, which in turn gave rise to the modern democratic model of human ownership. As displaced peasants flooded into the cities, a huge stock of cheap human capital became available to the rising industrialists. And the ruling class of human farmers quickly realized that they could make more money by letting their livestock choose their own occupations. Under the democratic model, direct slave ownership has been replaced by the mafia model. The mafia rarely owns businesses directly, but rather sends thugs around once a month to steal from the business owners. you are now allowed to choose your own occupation, which raises your productivity, and thus the taxes you can pay to your masters.
Value this time in your life, kids, because this is the time in your life when you still have your choices. And it goes by so fast. When you're a teenager, you think you can do anything, and you do. Your 20s are a blur. 30s, you raise your family, you make a little money, and you think to yourself, what happened to my 20s? 40s, you grow a little pot belly, you grow another chin. The music starts to get too loud. One of your old girlfriends from high school becomes a grandmother. 50s, you have a minor surgery. You'll call it a procedure, but it's a surgery. 60s, you'll have a major surgery. The music is still loud, but it doesn't matter because you can't hear it anyway. 70s, you and the wife retire to Fort Lauderdale. Start eating dinner at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. You have lunch around 10, breakfast the night before. Spend most of your time wandering around malls looking for the ultimate soft yogurt and muttering, how come the kids don't call? How come the kids don't call? The 80s, you'll have a major stroke. You end up battling with some Jamaican nurse who your wife can't stand, but who you call mama. Any questions?
Your few freedoms are preserved because they are profitable to your owners. The great challenge of the democratic model is that increases in wealth and freedom threaten the farmers. The ruling classes initially profit from a relatively free market in capital and labor, but as their livestock become more used to their freedoms and growing wealth, they begin to question why they need rulers at all. Well, nobody ever said that human farming was easy. Keeping the taxed livestock securely in the compounds of the ruling classes is a three-phase process. The first is to indoctrinate the young through government, quote, education. As the wealth of democratic countries grew, government schools were universally inflicted in order to control the thoughts and souls of the livestock. The second phase is to turn citizens against each other through the creation of dependent livestock. It is very difficult to rule human beings directly through force, and where it can be achieved, it remains cripplingly underproductive, as can be seen in North Korea. Human beings do not breed well or produce efficiently in direct captivity. But if human beings believe that they are free, then they will produce much more for their farmers. The best way to maintain this illusion of freedom is to put some of the livestock on the payroll of the farmer. Those cows that become dependent on the existing hierarchy will then attack any other cows who point out the violence, hypocrisy, and immorality of human ownership.
Officers positioned Grant face first on the floor with one officer near his head, a second near his back, and a third officer standing nearby. There appeared to be a brief struggle. Then, a 2-year veteran BART officer stands, draws his weapon, and fires.
Freedom is slavery, and slavery is freedom. If you can get the cows to attack each other whenever anybody brings up the reality of their situation, then you don't have to spend nearly as much controlling them directly. Those cows who become dependent upon the stolen largesse of the farmer will violently oppose any questioning of the virtue of human ownership, and the intellectual and artistic classes, always and forever dependent upon the farmers, will say to anyone who demands freedom from ownership, you will harm your fellow cows. The livestock are thus kept enclosed by shifting the moral responsibility for the destructiveness of the violent system to those who demand real freedom. The third phase is to invent continual external threats so that the frightened livestock cling to the protection of the farmers. This system of human farming is now nearing its end. The terrible tragedies of modern Western economic systems has occurred not in spite of, but because of past economic freedoms. The massive increases in Western wealth throughout the 19th century resulted from economic freedoms. And it was this very increase in wealth that fed the size and power of the state. Whenever the livestock become exponentially more productive, you get a corresponding increase in the number of farmers and their dependents. The growth of the state is always proportional to the preceding economic freedoms. Economic freedoms create wealth, and the wealth attracts more thieves and political parasites, whose greed then destroys the economic freedoms. In other words, freedom metastasizes the cancer of the state. The government that starts off the smallest will always end up the largest. This is why there can be no viable and sustainable alternative to a truly free and peaceful society. A society without political rulers, without human ownership, without the violence of taxation and statism. To be truly free is both very easy and very hard. We avoid the horror of our enslavement because it is so painful to see it directly. We dance around the endless violence of our dying system because we fear the attacks of our fellow livestock. But we can only be kept in the cages we refuse to see. Wake up. To see the farm is to leave it.
See, Stefan, he couldn't have known when he made it that he was making it for this show, but clearly he was, because he said, wake up. That's the theme of this show. Wake up! You know, I'm not asking anybody to wake up exactly to what I perceive to be truth. Just wake up. Just wake up to the reality around you. Ask yourself the critical questions. Hopefully, these next two items that we're going to discuss, which is related to what you've just heard, will aid in that wake-upedness. I like that phrase, wake-upedness. Are you in a state of wake-upedness, or are you already woken up? If you're just in wake-upedness, the show is actually designed for people in wake-upedness, and hopefully it at least entertains people that are already woken up. So the woken up folks will be like, yeah, man, I know this stuff. But you know what? When he says, when he presses the buttons and he makes those sound effects, those funny sound effects, you know what I'm talking about?
I like eggs. I like eggs.
I love that. I love it. It's so entertaining. So that's why I add the sound effects. I add the sound effects so that the wake up people will be entertained. And hopefully I will entertain the wake up people with this next bit. This next bit, it's actually not a bit. It's actually true. It should be a bit. It should be a parody, but it's not. So it's by a site called SOTT.net. And my title for it is Michigan Outlaws Chickens. And I'm going to go ahead and lapse into my 30s news radio voice. Michigan residents lost their right to farm this week thanks to a new ruling by the Michigan Commission of Agriculture and Rural Development. Gail Filburn of the Michigan Sierra Club told Michigan Live the new changes effectively remove Right to Farm Act protections for many urban and suburban backyard farmers raising small numbers of animals. Backyard and urban farming were previously protected by Michigan's Right to Farm Act. The Commission ruled that the Right to Farm Act protections no longer apply to many homeowners who keep small numbers of livestock. Now, by the way, you just take that in. You got the Right to Farm Act, which passed. I don't know when it got passed. I'm not smart. But it got passed, and it's been there for a while, and then this commission's coming along. You know what? Let's change it. Let's change the definitions, because look, dude, people are starting to, like, more and more. They're, like, growing their own food and stuff, like trading with each other, escaping our government currency. Dude, we can't have that. Dude, we gotta change it. Quick, we gotta do something. We gotta do something before they grow their own chickens! When you join the army, you don't realize what you're really joining the army for is to stop people from growing their own chickens. I'm just saying. That might be a bit hyperbolic, but is it? Kim White, who raises chickens and rabbits, said, "They don't want us little guys feeding ourselves. They want us to all go to the big farms. They want to do away with small farms, and I believe that is what's motivating it." I don't think that's it. Maybe, but I think what's really underlying it, maybe these Michigan commission food Nazis don't even realize it, but what's really behind it is the government wants to make sure that you can't grow your own food, provide your own energy. You ever hear of compost toilets? Compost toilets are wonderful, wonderful things for people who are willing to use human poop to use as manure, which is called humanure. I'm willing to do it. I mean, you really think about it. I mean, really, are humans like what humans eat? Is it any more or less disgusting than what cows eat? But we use cow manure, we're fine with that. But humanure. But anyway, you can't use a compost toilet in most zoned areas. Compost toilet is basically, it's a waterless toilet, essentially. I won't get into the details of how it works, but it would enable you to free yourself from the sewage system. It would significantly cut down on the need for sewage. But there's all kinds of ordinances preventing you from using compost toilets for the good of the whole, for the protection of the good of the whole. And I don't think it's because compost toilets are dangerous to people. I think it's because government wants to make sure that you can't leave the system. So the ruling will allow local governments to arbitrarily ban goats, chickens, and beehives on any property where there are 13 homes within 1/8 mile or residents within 200 feet of the property, according to Michigan Public Radio. The Right to Farm Act was, here's the answer. The Right to Farm Act was created in 1981 to protect farmers from the complaints of people from the city who moved to the country and then attempted to make it more urban with anti-farming ordinances. I don't like the smell of animals. I like my animals raised and killed somewhere where I don't know and I don't have to deal with all those messy things. The new changes affect residents of rural Michigan too. It is not simply an urban or suburban concern. Of course it's not, because it's not about your safety and your protection from smells and sounds. It truly is. The government is realizing, dude, they're figuring it out. They're starting to figure it out. They're starting to figure it out. They don't need us. They don't need us. Look at this. More and more people are starting to do this kind of crap. Starting to grow their own food. Starting to get their own chicken coops. Dude, we can't have this. And on that line, we go to the next story, which is IRS. It's expanding its time that it can audit you from 3 years to 6 years. So this means, now you think about this. Now, I traditionally, I think I do like 5 years. But I get rid of my records because, I'm not a pack rat. Well, I am a pack rat, let's be honest. But I'm a pack rat, pardon me. Whoa! Excuse me. I'm a pack rat with a wife. And the wife says no pack ratting. So because of that, we get rid of stuff. So if I were to get audited by the IRS for something that happened 6 years ago, I'm hosed. Most people are. And how good a record are you going to keep? And what are the chances that in 6 years, especially given how mobile we are, that you lose records? Really puts everybody at risk. And the way that it happened. Well, why don't we go ahead and read the article? This is from yahoo.com. More specifically, taxes.yahoo.com. See that? Yahoo has dedicated a whole section of its site to taxes. Because government. Traditionally, the primary IRS statute of limitations was 3 years, but there are many exceptions that give the IRS 6 years or longer. Several of those exceptions are more prevalent today, and one of them has gotten bigger despite a decision by the U.S. Supreme Court. The 3 years is doubled to 6 if you admitted more than 25% of your income. For years, there was a debate over what it means to omit income from your return. Taxpayers in some courts said omit means leave off, as in don't report. But IRS said it was much broader. Of course they said it was much broader. Okay, come on, Cray Cray voice. Go back in there, man. Cray Cray voice wants to come out right now because I have blood shooting out of my eyes. Example, you sell a piece of property for $3 million, claiming that your basis, what you invested in the property, was $1.5 million. In fact, your property was only $500,000. The effect of your basis overstatement was that you paid tax on $1.5 million of gain when you should have paid tax on $2.5 million. In U.S. versus Home Concrete and Supply, LLC, the Supreme Court slapped down the IRS, holding that overstating your basis is not the same as omitting income. The court said 3 years was plenty for the IRS to audit. But Congress recently overruled the Supreme Court. Ooh, rule of law? Rule of law? But rule of law, who will build our rule of law? Well, I'm going to go to Somalia because they built rule of law there nicely. But Congress recently overruled the Supreme Court and gave the IRS 6 years in such a case. 6 years can be a long time. Filing your return early won't help either. The time periods can be even longer than 6 years in some cases. The IRS has no time limit if you never file a return. For unfiled tax returns, criminal violations, or fraud, though, the practical limit is so you have to, there's all kinds of stories that we could cover. We could talk about how some municipalities make it illegal for you to live off of the grid. You must be, even if you have solar power, you must be connected to the grid. There's just a bevy of examples of governments passing laws to make sure that you can't leave the system, that you can't figure out a way to take care of yourself without being regulated, without being taxed. It's not, I'm a Christian, so from a Christian perspective, it is not like I'm not giving to Caesar what is Caesar's by finding a way to provide for myself that allows me to not have a certain amount of resources taxed and regulated by the government. For instance, to be able to barter with one another. That is, I would say it's my God-given right to barter with someone. If I want to, hey, Bob, I like your cell phone. Tell you what, I'll give you this half-eaten dog for it. No, I'm just kidding. I wouldn't eat my dog. I'm not going to lie to you guys. I'm not going to eat my dog. Well, I will if you win that bet, but you ain't going to win that bet, so I ain't worried about it. But at any rate, we can make that barter. But the government, they want to make sure that if you make an exchange of any kind between two human beings, that the government gets its cut. See, that's not right. That's not giving to Caesar what is Caesar's. That's Caesar taking what isn't his. And these laws preventing you from growing your own food, for instance, this is about regulating you, making sure that you have to spend $1 to get a carrot instead of growing the freaking carrot yourself. That's what this is about. And on that note, I am going to move on to the last topic of the evening. And this is where I'm not going to lie to you. I am not unfamiliar with what's going on in the world. I do follow what's going on in the world, but this is an area where actually my buddy, my partner in crime, Dimitri, where he really excels. He's got a lot of strong suits in the areas where we're going to talk about guns, and we will talk about guns on this show because both of us love guns. That's actually another one of the strong suits. These are the strong suits, but current world events and analyzing what's going on with those world events, that truly is a Dimitri strength. I'm pretty decent, but I'm no Dimitri. But I'm going to try to muscle my way through this. So I'm going to play a little clip here to set it up. If I can find it here. You know what?
I like eggs. I like eggs.
That's not the clip, but somehow it's been too long. I needed to hear that. So I'm going to look for it. Here it is. Now, this is from a report from Press TV. Yes, I understand that Press TV is Iranian propaganda TV. But I'm not going to lie to you. When you're hearing Fox News, when you're hearing CNN, those are Press TV too. They're American propaganda. Actually, they're American political party propaganda. But don't fool yourself. Both political parties are American propaganda. They just, it's just a fake wrestling thing that goes on where you got one side that says, no, man, no more taxes. And, a week later, they actually vote for more taxes. And then the other party's, no, you are not. I repeat, you are not going to kill American citizens with drones. And then when they get power, that's exactly what they do. Because it's all just, it's two names for one party. And that's the state party. So when I'm playing these things from Press TV or RT, just remember, if I'm playing CNN or Fox or any of those, I'm also playing a propaganda news agency's report. So here we go. Mr. Vladdy, this is a report on Vlad the Putin. Vlad the Putin. Come on, man. Vlad the Putin. I dare you. I triple dog dare you. If you run into Vlad in Moscow, to walk up to him and say, hey, Vlad the Putin, what's up? I dog dare you. Seriously. You're gonna feel a syringe going in your body. And about a half hour later, you'll be dead. That's what's gonna happen if you call him Vlad the Putin. I'm just saying. He's a syringe man. He's not guns, he's syringe man. So anyway, this is Press TV reporting on Vlad the Putin, kind of warning NATO. Dude, Eastern Europe, keep out. And that's going to lead us into looking at a couple stories that are going to demonstrate that, well, Eastern Europe kind of wants back in.
Russia's President Vladimir Putin has criticized the expansion of NATO eastwards, saying the West made a mistake by forming a global missile system. Putin says following the collapse of the Berlin Wall in 1989, the then NATO Secretary General announced that the Western alliance would not expand its reach. But American and European officials acted exactly vice versa. According to the Russian president, NATO always claimed that its missile deployment in Eastern Europe is to address the so-called Iranian nuclear threat. However, even the nuclear deal with Iran could not stop NATO's anti-ballistic missile system from developing further, and the body has signed bilateral agreements with Turkey, Poland, and Spain. Putin added that NATO has already installed radars in Turkey and created a missile positioning area in Romania, all against Russia.
So there you go. That's Putin. He's like, dude, back off. I don't like this. And we in America are like, no, man, don't listen, man. Putin, he's against freedom. We're for freedom. Not really. We're for countries doing our bidding, just as any other state is for countries doing their bidding. Maybe. I don't know. I don't want to get into a contest to discuss. Okay, is America a more benevolent master than Russia? I don't know. I mean, certainly, I mean, maybe you could argue America's a more benevolent master than the Soviet Union. But I don't know about Russia. But anyway, irregardless. Ooh, I said irregardless. Oh, no. I just had a big a shaming of someone who said irregardless recently. And then they got it in my head. I haven't said that in a few years. But now since this person said this word, it got in my head. Regardless. The point is that whenever a state gets to a certain level of power, it must do less than liberty things to hold its power, and the more it pursues power in the world, the more nefarious things it has to do. So I want you to keep that in mind as we look at, without the brilliant analysis of Dimitri, who has totally left me out to dry, and Bernie Sanders, if you're listening to this and you have Dimitri, and you've stolen all of his sausages, and you're not giving them back, I say, you know what? He deserves it. He deserves to have his sausages taken from him and not given back to him. That bag of sausages, you can keep it, but return him next week because he's got work to do. You know, I am the state. I am the big state. Dimitri is the satellite state. So you have to let him go so that I can use him to my end. Because that's the way it works up in here. Up in here. So this is from inserbia.info. According to the latest poll by Popular Serbian Politics magazine, New Serbian Political Thought. I think when I said Popular Serbian Politics magazine, I think everybody in the audience was I knew he was going to say NSPT, New Serbian Political Thought, nailed it. Well, if you guessed it, you get a prize. And the prize is I won't sing for the rest of the show. I only sang during that one brief period of time. And I won't sing for the rest of the show. But dude, singing is coming. I'm telling you. Singing is coming. As a matter of fact, maybe the next show we have, maybe it's going to be a musical. It's going to be an all-singing musical. I'm just kidding. It's going to be no all-singing musical. But there's going to be singing. But anyway, I saw a bright and shiny object. I got lost in the weeds. Cray came out. Cray, get back in your box. Stop looking at the bright shinies. Let's get back on point here. So, according to the latest poll by Popular Serbian Politics magazine, New Serbian Political Thought, Serbs' support for the idea of joining the European Union is continuing its downward slide, while support for an undefined alliance with Russia, or for the country's neutrality, continues to grow. Interviewed by Sputnik Serbia. Dude, Sputnik Serbia. I'm going to butcher his name, but I'm going to go for it. I'm diving in. George Vukadinovich, the editor-in-chief of the Independent magazine, and we all know what that Independent magazine is, New Serbian Political Thought, revealed that at the moment, according to our research, support for joining the European Union stands at about 47%. Among that figure, 25% is the backbone, which has always been and will remain in favor of the EU. Ultimately, he notes, most respondents see in Europe, respondents, you idiot. I can't believe that guy said respondents. Seriously, he said that on my show too. Dude, you better back up. You better check yourself before you wreck yourself. Why don't you try that again? Ultimately, most respondents see in Europe a chance for a better future for the next generation rather than a chance for themselves. However, undoubtedly, the number of Eurosceptics is growing. Now, I'm not saying that Serbia is ready to dive in with Russia, but, you know, the EU is kind of letting people down because the EU is... Let me tell you what the EU is. Ready? I'm going to tell you what the EU is. Brace yourself. The EU is German banks. German banks in partnership with U.S. banks, which is in partnership with the World Bank. It's all about bankers, folks. I mean, I don't want to sound cray-cray on you, but it truly is all about bankers. If you want to have power in the world, you need to be part of one of these very wealthy banking families, because those are the guys. Those are the guys that are doing all the manipulations and perambulations, because it's all about bankers and banking. We live in a bankocracy. This is a bankocracy. So just deal with it. We're going to go on to the next story here. This is from Greece.GreekReporter.com. President of the Hellenic Republic, Prokipis. Oh, wait, no, that's his name. Dude, okay. I'm awesome. So the Hellenic Republic is Greece, you moron. So, I'm speaking to myself. I do speak to myself with regularity. You got a problem with that? Come at me, bro. Come at me, bro, about my speaking to myself. I thought so. Yeah, let's see you get past this microphone. I got a big microphone, by the way. This microphone is ginormous. This microphone will crack your head. Seriously. President of the Hellenic Republic, Prokopis Pavlopoulos, will be traveling to Moscow in order to meet with his counterpart, Vlad the Putin. Vlad the Putin. Vlad. You know what? I said there was not going to be singing. Dude, you know what? Just pretend I'm Donald Trump. And, if I said something 5 minutes ago, don't hold that against me. What's important is what I'm saying now. And what I'm saying now is there's going to be singing. Vlad the Putin, here he comes with his syringe. There you go. Vlad the Putin, here he comes with his syringe. Dude, I think that was like, you guys think that Lazarus was David Bowie's last song, but it wasn't. It was that right there. And the dude said, he got that song. He's like, dude, I want this to be my last song. It's very important. Vlad the Putin, here he comes with his syringe. And his handler was like, no, oh God, no, David, no, that's a bad move. Bad move. So they buried it. And you know why they buried it? Because the world bankers told them to. But anyway, he's going to meet with his counterpart, Vlad the Putin, or also known as Vladimir Putin, during a forum scheduled to take place on Friday, January 15th. The forum will focus on world events, as well as expectations in the short and medium term, and prospects of bilateral relations. The two presidents will discuss about the Greek-Russian ties and relations, and the cooperation possibilities between the two countries in regards to the sanctions imposed on Russia by the European Union since 2014. This will be the first meeting between Greek and Russian leaders since March 2015, when Putin received Greek Prime Minister Alexei Tsipras in Moscow. So they're getting all cozy-cozies, and they've been talking for quite a while. There's a lot of other things going on. It's a strange alliance that's emerging in Eastern Europe, especially the Aegean kind of area and the Levant included in there, Israel. I'll just say Israel. There's an alliance that's beginning to emerge with Israel and Russia and China and Greece. A lot of it centers around natural gas and oil. I think we talked a little bit about this in the last show, and if Dimitri was here, he could drop a lot more knowledge on this subject on you. But the geopolitical reality is changing. People are beginning to realize there is life. There is life without America. And we need to reshuffle and reorganize and realign ourselves with partners that won't, for the sake of political correctness or whatever other Mad Hatter reason they have, totally leave their allies out to dry. Let's go on to the last story in this theme, and this has to do with Moldova. And this is from BalkanInsight.com. See, I bring you the stories from those little sites that nobody reads, and the stories that are not being covered by the American government media or the other large Western government media outlets. Demonstrators against Moldova's new pro-European administration broke through police lines and entered the parliament building in Chisinau late Wednesday, despite police attempts to disperse them with tear gas, media reported. The protests, led by the pro-Russian socialist opposition, started as lawmakers voted in a new pro-European government led by Pavel Filip of the ruling Democratic Party. The socialists and their supporters were calling for early elections, as Filip announced closer ties between Moldova and the European Union. They accused the new administration of being led by oligarchs, shouting, "Cancel the vote!" and "Thieves!" the AP news agency reported. It was not immediately clear if there were any injuries. The new government was voted in after the previous administration was ousted in October amid a scandal after an estimated $1 billion went missing from the country's banking system. Since then, Europe's poorest country has been locked in political crisis. Dude, you're the poorest country and you drop $1 billion from your banking system. You know who has that $1 billion? Freaking IMF, man. International Monetary Fund. Or the International Monetary Fund. What did I say? Monety? What does monety mean? Somebody let me know what monety means. Write to me at paul@stateofwake.com. And please let me know what monety means. I want to know if I said something really smart or really stupid, or if it was, in fact, gobbledygook. At any rate, what you're seeing here with Moldova, with all these other stories, is there, in the case of Moldova, even in the case of the story that we started with, or we're talking about Serbia, I'm not talking about an overwhelming movement within Eastern Europe to go back into the Russian fold. But I'm not saying that that's not going to eventually happen. It may or may not. But what I am saying is that there is a re-emergence. It's almost like what's happening is people are starting to realize, well, maybe you guys aren't showing up in the middle of the night and dragging us out and executing us. And that's good. We like that. We like not being executed in the middle of the night. And when we were in the Soviet Union, those kinds of things kind of happened. But they're starting to realize that there's a different type of enslavement that's happening with the West. And maybe they're forgetting the night executions, or maybe they're thinking, dude, it's not the Soviet Union anymore, it's Russia. Russia's not. I'm not saying that Russia won't syringe you'll find self and drop you like a stone with some syringe in. But the larger scale execution of its own people is not something that's happening in Russia today. There is considerably more freedom in Russia today than there was under the Soviet Union. And now Russia, maybe it's offering the best of both worlds. You know, a lot of there's a lot of Slavic folks that are connected to the Russians. The Russians are Slavs. And, I mean, they're connected. They're bro cousins. And what they thought that they were going to get from the West was capitalism, but it was a lie. We haven't practiced capitalism in Lord knows how long. We practice some weird form of fascistic, mercantile, I don't know, it's a hybrid economy. It's got a little mercantilism, a little socialism, a little fascism. And when I say fascism, folks, I don't mean, the goose-stepping Mussolini folks marching down the street. That's what you think of when you think fascism. And fascism can definitely lead to that, but I mean fascism in an economic sense. I mean fascism in the sense that the corporation and the government are indistinguishable from one another. And the government doesn't own the corporation, but it de facto runs the corporation through its direction. And in our case, in America, I would say one of the ways that we've actually done that is we've made the government owners and the business owners, the very wealthiest corporate business owners, one. They're the same person. You put on your business suit one day and your political suit the next day. And your families have people on boards, on the top corporate boards, and they have family members that are serving in the Senate and Congress, and administrators, government, and regulators. A lot of power in America comes from regulators. As a matter of fact, regulators write laws all the time. Every single day, regulators are writing new laws without having to pass them, without even anybody knowing who the heck these people are. This is a Woodrow Wilson thing. And we will, by the way, in a future episode, we will be examining the progressive model and how it's actually come to fruition in America. The progressive model of a pure democracy mixed with a very powerful regulator class. It gives people the illusion of being we the people, when in reality, they are we the regulated. So what we've seen here with these stories is that America's real power in terms of the resources that America has, in terms of its technology, in terms of its military strength, it's still there. But America is being run by folks that are manipulating a new model, a new international model. A strong America is not the world that they want to see. They want to see a world, maybe that's going to head towards chaos, in which eventually some sort of world system can go ahead and step in and save the day. Now, don't get me wrong; they're not the only guys that are clamoring for this world power. I think they're the ones that are most serious about it. I think that American progressivism is far more imperial and dangerous than conservative nationalism. And they have a lot of similarities in how they approach the role in government in building their dream worlds. But conservative nationalists, they want a strong America. They want some degree of an American empire. They want America to have military bases. They want to preemptively strike your fine self if they feel like you're a threat. But they want a distinct American nation. They want the American nation to be the most powerful nation in the world, but not the only nation in the world. American progressivism is actually internationalism, which sounds great, right? It sounds like, listen, man, no borders. Why? I'm a world citizen. I actually went through a spell like that where I called myself a world citizen. I was in my early 20s. And let's just say I smoked a lot of weed back then. So I'm going to go ahead and blame the weed. And I'm just going to say that in my early 20s, when it came to politics, I think, if I was going to articulate my worldview in politics, it would sound something like this.
I like eggs. I like eggs.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I do. But this idea of a world citizen, what does that mean? If you're a world citizen, that means there's some sort of world governance going on. We're talking about a goal, a dream to build a world empire. This is the most imperial of all imperial dreams, and this is what American progressivism is. It's not about America. It's about taking over the whole world so that their socialistic dream can finally happen. If they could just rid the world of the greedy capitalists, like Bernie Sanders said, if they could just rid the world of the greedy capitalists, the so-called, what do you call them, casino capitalism. Boy, there's a lot of loaded stuff in that. Casino capitalism. It's the idea that somehow anybody who's successful is successful purely by chance. And the other way is, once you are successful, once you are the house, so to speak, you rig it so that others can't win. It's all by chance, but once you get in, you can make sure the other guys, by the way, that's not capitalism. That's, at best, mercantilism, where you're using the government to manipulate the economy for your own ends, or fascism, where you're mixing the largest corporate power with the largest government power, and you're acting as one for whatever end, whether it's just to make more money or whether it's just to hold power or some combination thereof. So we are left at this point looking at the world and saying to ourselves, what do we do now? And I tell you what you do now. You learn to do whatever you can do to free yourself from, as a Christian, I really have to be careful here. Because, I take, you give to Caesar what is Caesar's. I give to Caesar what is Caesar's. But if I can figure out a way, not through deception, but through practice, through practical means, if I could figure out a way, for instance, to get food without using money, if I could figure out a way how to get my car fixed without using money, if I could figure out a way to get health care for my family without using money, I'm going to do it. If I could figure out a way to make my own power and not have to buy power from the state, and energy is so highly regulated in America, the state and the businesses are all but one. They're almost indistinguishable. Really buying from the government. Where I can't, I will pay Caesar what is Caesar's. I will pay my taxes like a good little tax slave. But wherever I can, I will free myself from the parts of my life that this state has no business interfering with. And until I do, I will pay what I gotta pay. So I know I saw on Facebook somebody wrote that, I don't know if they were joking or not, but I thought it was a good dream, a good goal for 2016. That is to see networks of folks start to emerge that are relying on one another for products and services, to barter, to as the agorist system. The agorist would kind of look at it as aggressively attacking the quote unquote legal market. I won't phrase it that way, but you can look at it that way if you like. But I would phrase it as looking for ways to free yourself from unnecessary government intervention. So that's the biggest thing that we can do, because at the end of the day, it's not rule of law. It's not what's written on a piece of paper. It's only power. Power is what defines right and wrong in a world in which not everyone has the same shared idea of what the rulemaker is that exists outside the system. So on that note, I'm going to go ahead and I am going to sign off for today. And next week, we will have Dimitri on. I'm hoping, if Bernie Sanders returns him. We are working on a show, which I think we're probably going to do at the end of February. We do these, we're going to try at least once a month. This month, we didn't get to the show where we're not going to do one of our, I guess you call it our investigative report type shows. These shows are rather intense. They're very difficult to put together. They take a lot of time. We couldn't do one of these every week because we both work for a living. We don't get paid to do what we do here. But this show is going to look at the trending topics from 2015, and we're going to kind of do an analysis of why those stories, why were those stories pushed? What stories did they hide? So we'll be looking at the trending stories and the stories that we missed because of the trending stories. So on that note, I want to say thank you to everyone who has been listening. I will see you all next week. We may possibly change the time that we do the show. We're thinking about changing it from 10 to 8. I'm not sure. I'll keep everybody posted. You need to go to stateofwake.com/show 6, the number 6, show 6, to listen to read all the notes and click on all the articles that I used and see all the videos that I used, as well as I will also probably tomorrow I'll update it so that it has, first off, that one video that shouldn't be there, and also it'll have a widget placed on it that is for this show, so you can listen to the show again, because I know you can't listen to the show just once. You got to listen to it like probably 5 or 6 times. Seriously. Anyway, go to facebook.com/State of Wake, all one word, State of Wake, and be sure to like our Facebook page. We have a Twitter account, which is SO Wake Show. So it's twitter.com/SO Wake Show. And you can email me, Paul, that's Paul at stateofwakeshow.com. And you can email Dimitri at Dimitri, Dimitri at stateofwake.com. And if you have a general question, you can email the show at stateofwake.com. See how clever that is? Show at stateofwake.com. I spent weeks figuring that one out. I nailed it, though. I nailed it. The best email address for the show would be show at stateofwake.com. So I thank you, everyone, for listening to me, and keep working on your state of wake. And I am going to leave you. I'm going to be like, I'm going to mess with your head, man. I'm going to be like Pink Floyd, like, isn't this where we began, or something like that? But not exactly. I am going to leave you with the opening, which I think I'm going to do this regularly. I'm going to play the opening at the end as well. So this is your way to gently leave the safe confines of the State of Wake universe. And by the end of this 2.5-minute little presentation, you will have slowly nudged yourself back into the cold, cruel world outside of this safety zone, this safe space that is State of Wake. God bless. Good night.
State of Wake with Dimitri and Paul.
You're either with us or you're with the enemy. That's clear. I will continue to make that clear.
Basically taking over and the government running all of your companies.
We are 5 days away from fundamentally transforming the United States of America.
Wake up! Wake up!
We're scared. We're scared of an Obama presidency. I have to tell you, he is a decent person and a person that you do not have to be scared as President of the United States.
I have 2 words for you. Predator drones. You will never see it coming.
But we have to pass the bill so that you can find out what is in it.
Either you're with us, either you love freedom and with nations which embrace freedom, or you're with the enemy.
Also ask the school board to make a part of every day some kind of anti-violence, anti-gun message. Every day, every school, at every level. And we need to do this every day of the week and just brainwash people into thinking about guns in a vastly different way.
And when they say, I want my lawyer, you tell them, shut up.
Your time is
Don't get a lawyer. You're an enemy combatant.
We haven't had a very collective notion of these are our children. So part of it is we have to break through our kind of private idea that kids belong to their parents or kids belong to their families and recognize that kids belong to whole communities.
State of Wake with Dimitri and Paul. What's your state of wake?